You know, we see AI do these incredible things every single day. It can write music, it can help doctors spot diseases. It honestly feels like we're dealing with a superintelligence. But what if I told you that this brilliant AI has a shocking and frankly a pretty dangerous blind spot? A weakness that can be exploited in ways that feel like they're pulled straight out of a movie.
Just think about that for a second. Could a simple, strategically placed sticker actually trick a self-driving car into blowing right through a stop sign? Well, the answer is a resounding yes, and that gets right to the heart of what we're going to break down today: adversarial attacks on artificial intelligence.
All right, so let's jump right in. We're about to pull back the curtain on this hidden vulnerability that affects the very AI systems we're starting to rely on for some really high-stakes stuff. So there's a name for this whole field, of course. It's called Adversarial Machine Learning. And really, it's all about studying how to attack these algorithms and, just as important, how to defend against those attacks. You can think of it like this high-stakes digital game of cat and mouse.
Okay, so here's the absolute key to all of this. AI models are basically built on a foundation of trust. They have to assume that the data they're seeing, whether it's during their training or out in the real world, is a legit picture of reality. Attackers exploit that very trust by feeding the AI junk data, intentionally deceptive info, and it can cause the whole system to fail in some pretty spectacular ways.
So how in the world does someone actually go about tricking an AI? Well, it turns out there are two main playbooks they use, and getting a handle on them is totally key to understanding the threat. Let's break them down.
The first strategy is something called data poisoning. This is where an attacker messes with the AI's training data before it's even fully formed. It's kind of like teaching a kid that all stop signs are actually green lights. The other main strategy is evasion. Now, this one happens after the AI is all trained up, and it's all about creating a very specific, tricky input, like that sticker on the stop sign, that's designed to fool the AI when it's out there doing its job.
And get this, attackers don't even need the blueprint to the AI's brain. In what's called a white box attack, yeah, they know everything about how it works. But in a black box attack, they're basically flying blind. All they can do is give it inputs and watch what comes out. And here's the really scary part. AI is vulnerable to both types of attacks.
Now, this might all be sounding a little abstract, but I promise you it's not. These attacks are really happening in labs, and they're proving to be incredibly effective. So let's look at some of the most mind-bending, real-world examples out there.
Okay, this is where things get genuinely weird. Researchers 3D printed this little toy turtle, but they gave it a very specific texture. Now, to you and me, it is obviously a turtle. But to Google's super smart object detection AI, it's a rifle, 100% a rifle, and it doesn't matter which angle the AI sees it from, it always sees a rifle.
But it can get a lot more serious. A security firm showed they could fool a Tesla's vision system by adding just a tiny 2-inch piece of black tape to a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit sign. The AI misread the number 3 as an 8, and it caused the car to automatically try to accelerate to 85 miles per hour.
And that brings us right back to that question we started with. In a really famous experiment, researchers just slapped a few black and white stickers onto a stop sign. And the result? The autonomous vehicle's brain completely ignored the fact that it was a stop sign and instead saw a speed limit 45 sign. This isn't just some random glitch. It is a targeted digital illusion.
So, we've seen a whole turtle and a piece of tape, but just how small can this deception get? Well, it can be so small you probably wouldn't even see it. Researchers actually discovered that in some situations, changing the color of a single pixel in an image was enough to make a deep learning network get it completely wrong. Just one single pixel.
Okay, so that was definitely the alarming part of the story. But it doesn't end there. Researchers and major institutions are actively fighting back. They're working really hard to build a stronger, more resilient AI. So let's take a look at how they're actually building up the defenses.
So a huge player in this fight is the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST for short. They're putting together a big, comprehensive framework for how to manage these AI cybersecurity risks. And this is so important because it creates a kind of standardized playbook for defense, so that everyone building AI systems is working from the same set of best practices to bake in trust and security from the start.
So what's actually in that defensive playbook? Well, one of the core ideas is adversarial training, which is kind of like giving the AI a vaccine. During its training,
Developers will intentionally show it examples of these tricky inputs. You know, the digital version of a turtle that looks like a rifle, so it learns to spot the deception and not get fooled. And then you have things like data sanitizing, to find and get rid of that poisoned data, or using multiple AIs to cross-check each other and vote on a decision, which makes it way harder for one bad input to fool the whole system.
But here's the thing. This isn't a problem that you just solve once and then walk away. As AI gets more and more tangled up in our lives, we're really entering a new phase, a perpetual cybersecurity arms race. It's a constant battle between those trying to attack AI and those trying to defend it.
And that brings us to the core dynamic of this whole thing. It's a never-ending cycle. The good guys model a threat, they simulate an attack, they figure out how bad the damage is, and then they design a countermeasure. But the second that defense is in place, the attackers adapt and find a new way in, and the entire cycle just starts all over again. It's a constant, proactive process.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last massive question. As our defenses get smarter and our AIs get more and more robust, will human creativity on the attack side always manage to find a new crack in the armor? Honestly, the entire future of AI security might just hang on that answer.